So first of all, tell me about soil stabilization. What are the benefits, and who is it best for?
Soil stabilization is best for everybody in North Texas or any state that you've got CH clay, which high plasticity clay, which has a high potential of swell and shrinkage because of water migration, either through rain or irrigation. So everybody's a good candidate for it, you know, as long as you understand the soil and then what you're going to build.
The reason why we want it, it all comes down to a stable foundation.
Yes, yeah, stabilization is a key word. The reason why you want to stabilize the ground prior to building or any kind of structure that you're going to do is if it's CH clay, it has a high potential to swell with water coming in, migrating into the soil, and then it'll heave. And it can heave up to, typically it's about 7 to 8. I've seen it up to 12 inches of heave when water comes in. So it acts like a sponge. So when you stabilize the ground, at least from a chemical injection view, we change the polarity of the clay and we stop it from heaving and contracting. It makes it act like a sand more than it does anything else. So that's why you want to do it, because most of your heaving and contraction is around the perimeter of your home, your building, you know, whatever that you're building. And if it did it uniformly, then it would rise up uniformly, but it doesn't do that. It'll rise up 2 inches over here, 3 inches over there, or settle over here. And that's where you get your cracking in your concrete, your doors don't shut, your windows are not shutting like they did. And that's why you want to stabilize it, because it all starts with the ground. You know, if the ground's moving, yeah, there are piers and there's rebar and void boxes and all these different methods that you can do. And there's different stabilization methods, but chemical injection is by far one of the best things that you can do, because it modifies the soil so it stops it from swelling.
Because clay does move everywhere, every single foundation, whether it's a street or a foundation for a house or a building,
Yes,
has the capacity to crack or break or move, right? And you say up to 7 inches in some cases, right?
in some cases, yeah, 7. We've got a project now, but it'll swell to 12 inches.
Wow.
You know, but it all starts with knowing, understanding, you know, what you're building on. So a geotechnical report or getting a hold of a geotechnical firm to understand, you know, what's in the ground prior to you building is the key. That's the first thing that you need to do. And then, you know, if it has a high PVR, now PVR is potential vertical rise. Sometimes they call it potential vertical movement. And again, that's where you get your swell. They calculate how much water can that ground take in, and then how much does it swell. And then they calculate the overburden, you know, too. So it'll swell at 2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet.
Right.
And what are those PVR percentages in there?
All right, tell me a little bit about ProChemical Soil Stabilization, your company, how you started and how you got where you are in it.
We started in 1994, and we've been in business for 29 years. And we started off doing hand injection. We didn't have any tractors. We started it off with machines that were pumping about 30 gallons a minute. And we were using...
Can you describe that process? Hand injection, so they're using...
Hand injection is without a tractor. So it's one rod or one probe that's 10 foot long. It has a T on it, and then we're pushing it in the ground manually, and we're injecting on, same as a tractor. We're doing it on 6-inch intervals. We've got our dilution ratio. We've looked at the geotech report. We're doing it on the same, we're doing it on 3-foot centers, and we're just hand injecting it. And it's the same process, it does the same thing, it's just less water.
Right.
So that's how we started. And then we started out at Alliance Airport, and we were just doing some frontage roads out there. We did a test road. So we did one part of the road, and then the other part we didn't do. And at the time, they just wanted half the road done. So we did that. And then 6 months later, you know, they called us back out, And they noticed that the concrete trucks that were running up and down the road, the part of the road that we had done wasn't rutting. Now, a concrete truck, I'm assuming, weighs 60, 70, 80,000 pounds, I'm not sure. And it was rutting a little bit, but not like the road, the half the road that we did not inject.
Amazing.
It was really rutting. They were getting stuck on it. So that's kind of how it started. And then they did some other tests and realized that the load-bearing capacity of the soil was greater than it was before, and it stopped the swelling, which we knew that it was going to do that, but there was an added benefit to it. So it kind of started from there, and then we started doing driveways, sidewalks, swimming pools. Then we got into commercial a little bit, and that went on for a couple years. And then we decided, hey, how can we do this process faster? So we took a tractor, we took the bucket off of it, and we built an injection mass that held 5 rods at 10 feet. We go up to 10 feet, and we injected the same way that we did manual. We just did it hydraulically with 5 rods, which sped up the process. And we use more water in there because we really want to, when you're injecting, you want to flood that ground and get all the water that you can into it to swell it up.
Right.
And then you come back with chemical, and that goes through that lattice of the soil, because soil looks like pancakes under a microscope, if that makes sense to you. Mm-hmm. And then so that's what makes it swell. So you get a heavy bond of water in between those clay platelets, and then that's where you get your heave. And then when it dries back out, it goes back down. That's where you get your shrinkage at. So what we're trying to do is swell it up to its potential PBR, then come back with a dilution ratio of chemical and water, and then that changes the polarity of the clay. And then it doesn't have the ability to hold that heavy bond of water in between those clay platelets. And that's the soil stabilization that we do, chemical stabilization. There's all kinds of different methods for soil stabilization. They do moisture conditioning, where they dig it out, and then they put it back in 6-inch layers, and then they water it. They're doing the same thing. They're just putting 6 inches dirt, water it, 6-inch dirt, and they're compacting it, going all the way back up. But that doesn't, it's a good method, but it's not permanent. Eventually it'll move.
What are some common problems that treating the soil solves?
Treating the soil solves heave and contraction. So it solves your concrete problem. So it stops cracking. It stops your foundation from moving. It increases the load-bearing capacity of the soil. So it stops all of the movement under your concrete. So everybody hears in Texas and in other states where you've got a high plasticity of soil, that swells, then that's where you get your cupping and warping and all that around your perimeter. So your doors move, your windows move, and it's seasonal too.
Right.
In the winter, they'll go up, summer they go down,
Right.
So in the summer, you can't close your doors.
Right.
One
thing I noticed after we built our house about 20 years ago, we had a huge crack right through the middle of the house.
Right.
And I, complained to my builder, and it was probably about maybe a month or two after the house was all finished. Mm-hmm. I complained to my builder, and basically what he said was, if you don't want cracks, don't build a foundation in Texas.
Well, they're all going to move a little bit. You're going to get a little bit of movement, in anything that you do. Concrete's going to crack, but it's when it does that, it's got so much pressure, up pressure of water, that's going into that soil, and then it has nowhere to go, because water will go under concrete. You lift up a rock, it's usually moist unless it's 110 out, and that's where it stays, and then it just starts sinking in, and then it starts swelling, and then when it dries back out, then it'll go back down. So that's where you get that, up and down around your foundation.
Right. So you talked about the process a little bit, and you did talk about different types of soil stabilization. Can you tell me about that a little bit more?
So the different types of stabilization are moisture conditioning, water injection, and chemical injection, or pretty much the main three. Moisture conditioning is done all over the state. It's done all over. So they dig it out, whatever the geotech recommends. It's usually 5 feet. It could be up to 10 feet, which gets very expensive. Then they just put it back in. They're digging a hole out, and then they're putting water in. They're sprinkling it with water, and then they're putting it back in 6 inches at a time. They're compacting it, and then that's what they're doing all the way up. That's one way. Okay, so they're swelling it. It's basically what they're doing. Okay.
Okay, so with that process, how do you have to redo it, or
No, you don't have to redo it. You just got to build on it within, a month or so. But water will again dry out and come back in. So they're fixing it temporarily, in my opinion.
right?
Then the next one is water injection. So they're just doing the same thing that we're doing, but they're not putting chemical in it. They're just pumping a lot of water into it and then swelling it up prior to building on it. The beauty about chemical injection is that you never can put it back into the ground like Mother Nature did. So when you dig it out, even though you're putting it back in with water and you're compacting it, right, it will never be the same as millions of years that it just sat there, because it's usually most of it is already compacted, even though it swells.
Right.
So with chemical injection, you're not really disturbing the ground because you're just using probes and you're injecting it. And then the chemical changes the polarity of the clay, so it's permanent. You don't have to worry about it.
Cool.
It changes the polarity of the clay, and then it doesn't matter when water comes in or migrates in, either through rain or irrigation, it's not going to move your foundation.
How long does it last?
As far as we can tell, we've had a test done on it 7 years later. It's actually one of my competitors that we injected. It was a church, and for some reason the church wasn't built or something changed, and then they came in and wanted to test it. They were going to build it later on. So they had got the contract. So that company knew that I injected it. So they went and got a boring on it from a geotechnical company, and it came back at 1%. And that is our goal, is to get it to 1% or 1 inch of movement after the injection. And then 7 years later, from 0 to 10 feet, we injected it, it came back fine. So that's evidence there. Then we've been in business for 30 years. And we just don't have a lot of complaints. Sure, we have some that'll move a little bit, but they're very rare. It may be 1 or 2, and then we'll go back and we'll do a hand injection around the perimeter and we stop it. But that doesn't mean that the injection process didn't work. You may have a plumbing leak that was below the injection zone, that it had over 3 to 2 years or whatever it is, depending on how big the leak was. It had time to sink down below that injection zone because it's CH clay to 20, 25 feet, and it just started pushing that house up. It started heaving up and down, and that's usually the case if we have a problem.
Different industries that you work with: residential, commercial, industrial.
Well, the different industries that we work with is mainly residential. We do a lot of commercial as well, but we really target on, no matter what, if it's commercial, residential, you're a small contractor doing driveways, we concentrate on CH clay and where it's at. That's what we concentrate on.
Gotcha.
So we do all types of pre-construction. It's mainly residential. We do a lot of subdivisions. That's just kind of where it's evolved lately, but we're getting back into commercial as well.
Gotcha. So you'll do a complete subdivision, an entire subdivision?
Yes, we do a complete subdivision. Right now we're doing a complete subdivision in Middle Lothian. We're also doing the streets as well.
How many houses are we talking about?
800 to 900
Okay.
in that subdivisions, and we're doing the streets. So we're doing the streets first. We're injecting those, and then we're coming back after the streets have been tested, and then we're coming back and doing the pads.
So I'm just curious, what happens on highways? What do they do for highways?
They lime it. As far as I know, they lay lime down. We've done roads. We haven't done highways, but we've done some roads. We've done race tracks. We've done drag strips. We've done runways. We've done a lot of that. We do a lot of softball fields. We do running tracks. We do all of those. It's the opportunity with do roads is just it's a water source.
Gotcha.
You know, it's a water source. They don't have water available, you know, as much as that, you know, we use it.
Right.
So we're using probably about 80 gallons a minute is what we're using, you know, and it's all going in the ground and swelling it up. They're using tanker trucks and they're spraying it with water or lime and water or slurry, you know, so.
Okay.
But we are in the process of talking to different counties and stuff about doing not injection, but using our chemical to help stabilize the base.
Is there any maintenance required after the fact?
There's always maintenance on your foundation. You always want to make sure that you're maintaining the moisture around it. So especially if you've got irrigation, you've got sprinklers in the front, sprinklers in the back, and all around sides. If you've got one watering more than the other one, you just need to be cognizant of that and make sure that your sprinkler irrigation is working properly. You're not running it 5 more minutes than you are in the back, you know. And that's whether you do chemical injection, water injection, moisture conditioning, or if you haven't done anything, it's better to look at the moisture content around your house and just, you don't have to have a probe or anything, just be cognizant of it. You know, you can stick your finger in the ground and go, yeah, it's dry over here, wetter over here, you know, and then you just want to make those changes that you need to. Proper guttering around your house is also very critical. You know, you don't want any water standing, that is, around your house for long periods of time, because what it does is just soaks down into the ground, and you know, you could have a settlement issue. It might not even be a heave issue. You know, heave is what we stop.
Have you guys changed anything, or have you tried to modify what you do?
Well, we're constantly changing. We're constantly changing. Our stabilizer, we're not changing. Now we're always looking to an improvement, but it's hard to improve on one of the best stabilizers, at least in our opinion, in the market. We've got a university study on it, and we've asked the appropriate questions. You know, what's the dilution ratio for this particular soil, this particular PVR? You know, those were the things that we wanted to know through an independent study. You know, so we gave them all of that information, what it was exactly into our ProChemical stabilizer, our blend, and we had that tested, and it came out with flying colors. What we modify is, you know, how we inject it. You know, what's the most economical way to inject it? You know, what's the best technology? Is it skid steer? Is it still tractor, hand injection? You know, what's the spacing? You know, all of those things. You know. Anything to help with productivity and make it more economical for our customer, we're always striving to do that.
Tell me about the cost of not doing versus the cost of doing stabilization.
The cost of not doing stabilization is just a gamble. You know, you don't have to do anything. I mean, there's a lot of homes in North Texas and all over the country that don't do anything, that have a high PVR. You know, that don't move, but there's quite a lot of them that do. And that's where, if you have a house that's moving, and it's moving a lot, where you've got, you know, a 1/4 inch crack, your bricks moving, you know, all of those things, you've got doors that are not opening, and you've got big foundation issues, and you'll know them pretty quick, then you're talking thousands and thousands of dollars of repair. They got to go do tunnel under your house. I got to do full underpinning. And then I'm not a foundation expert. I don't do foundation repair, but I work with a lot of foundation companies and know know the lingo that a full underpinning is quite expensive, you know.
Sure.
So you can save money on the front end, but if you do injection, you can probably get a lot of injection done for one house of repairs, I'll put it that way.
What are your biggest challenges right now for your business?
Biggest challenge for our business right now is just in the current market is cost. I mean, we've really got to control cost, and we're doing a very effective job of doing that in how we buy our raw materials, our steel, our equipment purchases, our work trucks, you know, and we've really got to have great personnel to do the job, because it's very important for us that we provide a quality job, because most everything that we do is tested. So we've got to, pass that test. So you've got to have the right people, the right equipment, the right technology in place. So that's ongoing
Sure.
all the time. So I'd say right now our biggest thing is just cost, because everything is so inflated right now.
Right. Well, the fact that you've been in business for over 30 years, you've worked on your processes, your systems so well that,
Yeah, and we've been able, at least in the last 2 years, yeah, we've gone up in our price, but we've actually it hasn't been much. We have found ways to cut costs, especially through raw materials, steel, everything. Try to buy it in bulk. We'll go get it, whatever it is. We're doing a lot more shopping than we ever have. Looking for deals and things like that. But we've got to have quality equipment too. You got to have stainless steel parts. You've got to have American steel. I mean, you've got to have all that stuff. We fabricate everything that we do through our injection masses. And they wear out just like everything else. They get so many hours on them, and then you got to start over again.
Sure.
So that's our biggest challenge. It's kind of always been our challenge, because we want to make this a very economical and permanent solution for our customers.
Tell me about the areas that you guys are currently working in.
We're currently working in North Texas, mainly east, and then we do Louisiana, we do a little bit of Oklahoma. We've gone into Arizona, around the Maricopa County. We've done a lot in there, and we're doing projects currently in Mississippi right now.
What kind of obstacles have you come across with respect to problem awareness? Like in some states, some areas, they either think they don't have a problem, or they...
A lot of different markets, different states, they just don't know about chemical injection. They haven't heard of it. So it's not an old technology, but it's over 30, 40 years old. And if you go out and you look at research on different soil stabilizers, there's a lot of good information that's out there about them, but people just don't know. We started this back in 1994, and nobody really knew anything about it, and then it's just been word of mouth, and then you take the longevity that we've been in business, and we don't have anything that's moving, and that process and word of mouth just keeps going, and we've built our business on that. And we're doing the same thing in Mississippi, Arizona, Oklahoma, Louisiana. And now, we're trying to get, the benefits of the industry, not just ProChemical, but the benefits of soil stable or chemical injection overall, to your residential market, to your commercial market, all of those things.
What is your plan for the future for ProChemical?
Our plan for the future is, if you're not growing, you're slowing. And we want to grow, and we want to provide soil stabilization to everyone that needs it. We want to grow. Outside of us, we really want to grow this industry. We've got some competitors out there that do a great job too, and I think that chemical injection in a whole is great for soil stabilization, better than some other methods that are out there. So we're always trying to improve, set guidelines, practices, better practices. I'm friends with a couple of competitors, and they feel the same way I do. That we really want to say that, chemical injection, if you do it properly and you get it tested, and you're proven that you've been in business for a while, and your soil stabilizer is proven, then that's what we're trying to advocate. We want to keep pushing this industry forward.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. We'll see you next time.
All right, thank you.